Hi, I am Julia Alexander. You are watching Be Informed with Julia Alexander. It's election season, and we have a phenomenal person that's running for our City Council at Large 2025. And she's none other than the Dr. Glenda Wright McCullum. Let's talk with Glenda and let's enjoy her. We happen to be at her fundraiser.
Yes.
Am I not correct? Her very first fundraiser. So we're going to talk to her, and we're going to talk to some of the people that's attending and going to be attending the fundraiser, and find out what she has in store for the city of Joliet. Hi, Glenda.
Hi there, how are you?
I am blessed. How about you?
I'm a healthy, wealthy woman.
Okay, you told me that earlier, but listen, you're not new to running.
Right.
Absolutely. And tell us, you've decided to run for City Council at Large. What do you bring to the table?
Let me first say that this is my second race for City Council at Large.
Okay.
I've also run in a district race for District 2. And so wanting to run again, I just know, here's the thing. I believe this is a call on my life. I have been sent to this city, and I am to inject the wisdom that I have for such a time as this. And so I'm excited. I want to bring vision. I want to work with the council, the current council, to bring about the progress that I know that we can make in the city. We have been known as the City of Champions. There have been many individuals who have heralded and hailed from our city and are doing great and awesome things. And I just believe that my domicile, I've been domiciled here. I'm a lifelong resident. I've been here all of my life. All of my siblings grew up and moved away. I'm number 6 out of 7 kids. Okay. And so they all grew up and moved away, but I've been remaining here. There are many things. I believe that every voice should be heard, that every community should be able to thrive, and that every resident should have the opportunity to succeed. And so I want to bring to the table those opportunities and those visions that can help to bring that about. Being able to identify the inequities that have happened and that continually happen in those communities that are marginalized, who don't get the voice or to even be able to be heard as to what they can bring to the table and what's offered to them in the city. And so I want to be that voice for individuals who don't have a voice, for individuals who don't know what belongs to their success, and being able to advocate for that.
Absolutely, and I think that we need advocating. We know that every city has a depressed area.
Yes.
And as you stated, that there are certain areas that continue to go unnoticed, or underserved.
Right.
And so, once you get on there, and once you are that, you are the council person for the entire city. So you are also the council person for those that have their districts.
Yes.
So we not only have one council person, we actually have 4 council people.
Yes, because I would work with the district council people as an at-large seat that covers the whole gamut of the city, as you said. And so, but that inclusivity is what's needed. We are one Joliet, and so if one part of the city is not successful, then that means that the whole city, the name of the whole city is at risk. And so what I want to do is to be able to bridge the gap. I believe that I can bring a sense of unity, a sense of harmony where there's division, where there's misunderstanding, where there's confusion, where there's not the knowledge of knowing what can transpire and how individuals can get involved. I want to hold town hall meetings, listening tours, so that I can hear the complaints and the concerns of the people, because that's who we represent. We represent the people. It's not about a political position. position. It's not about a political platform, but it's about serving the people. And so if we don't know what the people need, if we don't understand where they are and what the inequities are, how can we serve them? And so that's my whole goal. I want to be one who can bridge the gap and bring us together to where we can join forces, to where there's not all of the disunity. Our country right now is so divided.
Yes.
And so I believe that at this time and at this juncture in my life, I can be a voice that will bring together the masses, that will bring together those that are divided, to bring together to where we can hear, let me hear your view.
Yes.
Let me hear your view, so that we can have understanding as to what each individual, and certainly we're not going to agree upon everything, but the things that we can agree upon, let's come to the table.
Well, I figure there's always a common ground.
Absolutely.
You know,
And that
yeah.
one common ground is the fact that we all live in the city of Joliet.
Absolutely.
That's the
That
main
is-
common
that is
ground.
the common
And I
ground.
believe that we all want
Yeah.
the best for our city.
And each district wants the best for their district.
As a council person,
Yeah.
being able to hold those town hall meetings to where you can hear, okay, what are the concerns of the community? And for each community, it would be different.
Yeah.
I'm sure that it would be. But then being able to have that ear, and then being able to bring it back to the council to say, this is what this community is saying. This is where they're feeling that they're being left out. And then being able to bring that all together. And if I have to be the representative for the whole council, but even being able, say if I'm in one community, in one district, then I can partner with the council person that's in that district, and then we can bring together whatever is necessary for that district. And that way, the whole city is being ministered
Absolutely,
to.
absolutely. All
Yeah.
the needs are being met.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're talking about. There is plenty for everyone. We just have to find how to split the pie,
Yeah,
so to speak.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
it can happen. And
Yeah.
so you're standing in the gap to make that happen, right?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
So how excited are you about this? You've already told me this is your calling.
Yeah,
So-
this race is so much different.
Yeah.
It has a very different feel
Yeah.
than it did for the other races. The
Yeah.
first race I got in, I was getting my feet wet. I didn't
Yeah.
really know all of the ins and outs, how to run a campaign, and we did really well.
Yeah.
My team and I,
Yeah.
we pulled together and got a lot of things done. So it's like now I kind of know a lot of the ropes. I
Right,
know more of the
right.
ropes than I did at that
Absolutely,
time.
absolutely.
And so being able to pull all of that together, and I am thoroughly excited. The support that I'm getting, I'm just thoroughly excited about that, and being able to again just be that voice.
Right, right.
You know, your voice,
Yes.
your vote,
Yeah.
your city,
Yeah.
your right.
Yeah.
That's what I want to stand for.
Absolutely.
That's what I purport for. So, again, I'm Dr. Glenda Wright McCullum. I'm running for council at large for the city of Joliet. And if you are on the fence as to who you would vote for, if you are undecided as to who you would vote for or who you would support, I would encourage you to vote the right one.
Okay.
That would be me.
Okay, you heard that. Okay, I'm going to ask you like a tough question. Like you said, our country is in turmoil
Very
right
divided.
now. Very divided. There are so many things that is spoken about being happening. Some are happening as we stand.
Yeah.
And what affects our White House affects our house.
Yes, it does.
And what say you about the things that you know that's coming down from the White House?
I
there?
think, one of the things that I feel very strongly about is to educate ourselves, to become educated and not just hear the narrative as to what's being spoken, but really to do the research, to dig deep to find out what's being said, what's being purported through the news, and depending on which news you're listening to. And so being able to gather all of that together and then to be able to look at it and see, okay, how does this affect? And is this an injustice? And how is it going to affect a certain group of people? Or how is it going to affect the people as a whole? And so being able to look at all of that and understand that there's usually a method to the madness. There's usually an undercurrent and an underlying thing that maybe we don't have all of the insight to. Decisions that are made, those decisions most of the time are being made from a conglomeration of knowledge that they've gained that the people may not have insight to. And so again, I say to be able to do the research and to find out what is actually being said and how is it really going to affect, because there's a lot of stuff, Julia, that's floating out there that's not true. There's a lot of propaganda that's being funneled through, and so just being able to hone in and find out what's truth and hold to that truth.
And that's kind of like a segue in to the next thing that I'm going to say, because there are a lot of untruths out there, to the point where you have some people saying, well, you know what, I'm not going to vote, I don't want to be bothered, they're going to do what they want to do. Tell them how important that is. Don't believe that.
And you know, it's like the local elections are so important because they govern our lives. They set the tone for our life and our day-to-day living. And so it is very, very pertinent and key that we get to the polls and that we vote. If we don't vote, then we just need to be quiet. You know, we really can't have a complaint if we didn't do anything to try to solve the complaint, to try to solve the problem. Shall we can see a problem, and anytime you are growing, there's going to be problems, there's going to be misunderstandings, there's going to be confusions, you know, but in working through all of that, in order to be able to get to the end result that's going to benefit the whole, that's what I'm advocating for, so that everyone can benefit, and absolutely everyone. Again, they're not going to see eye to eye on every issue, but the issues that we can agree on, let's hone in on them and let's dig in real deep and get it done.
That's right. And so Glenda is saying everyone can enjoy a better life, better education in the city of Joliet.
And better opportunities.
And better opportunities. So Glenda, thank you so much. Thank you for putting your head in the ringer. Thank you for not giving up. Never giving up.
I tell you, it's a warfare. It's a warfare because some individuals can understand where you're coming from. You know, I was just sharing with a gentleman today that success breeds contempt. You know, and it brings along with it a whole lot of warfare and misunderstanding, confusion, all of that comes along with
words.
Absolutely. And so you just have to stand strong and be strong in your truth and stand in the righteousness of what you know that is right, what you know that is fair, what you know that is just, what you know that is equitable. That's what I'm standing for, not compromising. No compromise, but standing firm in the truth. The scripture says that when the righteous rule, the people rejoice. The righteous. Glenda right.
Righteous, Glenda righteous. And you all know, and we know from being spiritual and being raised up in church, that it has always been said, when you're doing something positive, that's when Satan hones in on you the most, you know, and try to tear you down. But what God has for you is for you. And the same for you, Joliet. What God has for us, it is for us. Let's get out. Let's vote. She says, strong together. That's what she says. Once again, when is that date?
April 1st is the election. Mail-in ballots will be going out. Also, early voting is going to start in March, I believe around March 17th. Early voting. Get to the polls. If you can't get to the polls, then fill out the application for mail-in ballot to where you can get your ballot in and get your vote. You know, I want to say this, that I work for a senior establishment, and it used to be a polling place prior to COVID hitting. After COVID hit, then they shut the polling place down at this senior establishment. And what I did is I reached out to the county clerk And God is set up to where now this establishment is going to become a polling place again for these senior residents because they can't get to the polls to vote.
Yeah.
And so those are the kinds of things that I want to do for the community, and that's just a stepping stone.
Yeah, well, that's a big stepping stone because we know our seniors vote, if no one else. So let's talking about seniors voting. What can we do to get the young people more engaged to vote, to sign up, to register?
Yeah, they're that next generation, and they're very, very key. And we have to pass the baton on to them and leave them something that they can build upon. As we hit the sunset of our lives, we have to have someone who's going to come behind us and pick up where we left off, not having to rebuild again. And so being able to reach out to those young people. You know, I was in the store just yesterday, and there was this young man in the store, and the store was about to close, and so he was trying to get all of his stuff in the basket and that, and I could see he was scrambling, and I said, just jokingly, I said, "You trying to get it in, huh?" And he said, "Yeah." And I told him who I was and that I was running. He said to me, he said, "I got you."
Okay.
He said, and so it's these young people are my heart. I raised my 3 children, and then I adopted 5 children. So I raised 8 kids in my house, and so that's that generation. The 30-year-olds and the 25-year-olds, getting them out and getting the word out so that, and being able to connect with them, is real key that our mind stays sharp enough to where we can connect with those young people and those young ideas.
And not just connect, but mentor.
Absolutely.
Like you said, rear up the next generation. Because somewhere that we've fallen on that. Somewhere we've fallen on that, and we need to pick that back up. I know that there are still some out here that's doing it, but it's not enough.
I think where we run into a problem, Julia, is that we are seeing a generation now who were not raised by their parents, but they were raised by grandparents. And so that whole generation that we lost, whether it was to drugs or whether it was to just a lifestyle that could not raise their own children. And so these kids, not even to mention the kids that are in the system, and being able to advocate for that. It's so much I could tell you about that, but it's like my heart is connected to them, and I want to. Okay, come on.
Right.
Give you an opportunity. Okay, let's do it this way. Let's do it that. Have you registered to vote? Have you gone? What are your skills? What are your talents? What is it that's on the inside of you? What is it that you can do? What were you created for? And being able to bring those things out in individuals. So that's I'm excited about.
And
that.
I always ask them, how do you see your city? What do you see in your city?
Okay.
It doesn't matter who you are. You must see something here.
I see my city as a city of champions.
I do.
We have difficult times, we have hard times, but if you could look beyond, before you can build anything, first it must be torn down. Before you can reform or regenerate or renovate anything, many times you have to go in and tear it down. And so as you're in that demolition process, that's the hard process. But if you could stay on the bright side to know that reviving it's coming.
You have to see that finished product.
Absolutely.
So once again, Glenda, look into the camera and tell the citizens out here to vote for you. And we are getting started with this fundraising, and they're coming in little by little. So tell them to vote for you.
Again, I'm Dr. Glenda Wright McCullum. I'm on your ballot for the April 1st election for the City of Joliet Council at Large. What I want to ask you is to make your way to the polls and vote for me as your representative, as your voice that will speak for you and on your behalf for the council.
Good evening. I am Dr. Nona Parker, and I have the privilege of co-pastoring Ecclesia Worship Embassy right here in Joliet with Dr. Glenda McCullum. I know this woman very well. I know her character, I know her integrity, and I know her love for the people of this city. She and I have grown up together. We grew up in the housing projects of Joliet many, many years ago, not realizing that as we got into our older years, we would would come together and we would shepherd a people together. She is a woman of great integrity, passion, vision, and she is a woman of her word. I know for a fact that Glenda Wright McCullum is really the right one for this seat. So I encourage you all, please go out and vote on April 1st for Glenda Wright McCullum, City Council at large. You will not regret it. She is a voice for our city. Thank you.
My name is Daryl Boisdorf. I'm running for Joliet Township Supervisor. I am not a career politician. I am a concerned citizen just like all of you, and I am here to hopefully make the things that matter correct in our community. Please, if you can, vote for Daryl Boisdorf for Joliet Township Supervisor. Thank you so much.
And so we're going to talk with Daryl, and we're going to, kind of find out a little bit about who he is. This is your first run out, isn't it not?
Yes,
is it not?
yes, I've never ran for office before.
Okay, and so number one, thank you for allowing me
Thanks for having me.
the interview with you. Tell us a little bit, who are you?
Okay, so I was born at St. Joe's, 38 now. I lived in Crest Hill, just about a half a mile away from Joliet my whole life. Moved to the city for 5 years during law school and a little bit after. COVID hit, we started working from home. I moved back out here. I've been here for a little while. I bought the property that I own now here in Joliet Township in 2023. So I've been a citizen here for 2 years, property tax paying citizen. I'm a licensed attorney. I own this multi-unit property. I own another property in Florida that I manage there as a short-term rental. I'm the treasurer of the HOA down there. Personal things, I've ran 8 marathons. I play guitar. I dabble in the piano. I'm a gamer. Those are just some of my hobbies. I think that covers some of it.
Okay, and so in your law firm, what's your practice under?
Oh, I'm a senior conflicts attorney.
Senior conflicts attorney.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's a complicated job.
Okay, so is it complicated to explain what you do?
Okay, well, no, I mean, yes and no, yes and no. So what I do at my job is whenever a partner submits a matter to my firm, I go through and make sure there are no conflicts. If they're representing ABC Corp and they're adverse to XYZ Corp, I make sure we're not representing XYZ Corp, and if we are, we get waivers or any clearances that we need.
Okay, so that's that conflict contract.
Yeah.
A conflict of interest and
Yes,
all that stuff.
exactly.
Right? Okay,
exactly.
well, so that's the who are you. What are you doing? What are you running for and why?
So I'm running for Joliet Township Supervisor, and I'm running because I got my tax bill a couple years ago and I was kind of interested in where the money was going and why it was so high. And then I went through the appeals process to appeal my property taxes, and I found a lot of discrepancies on my tax bill. I found that my property size was off. I found that comparables were not being used properly to assess my property, and I wanted to get involved. I noticed that the supervisor equalized my property tax assessment one year, and I said that seems like a good job to get involved in because he somewhat has the final say of people's tax bills. I'm also running because I've read the minutes and I want to see what more I can bring transparently to the table. I'm seeing money being spent in ways that I don't necessarily agree with. I think some of the taxpayers may not also agree with. I see a lot of vagueness in the budget. I see that there are just multiple zeros after certain numbers, and I know we all know when we get the bill, we'd be so lucky if they were rounded up. I just see a lot of vagueness and stuff, and I want to make sure that we're being fiscally responsible and that we're doing what the taxpayers want us to do with the hard-earned money that they give us.
Okay, and so you feel like with your experience that that's something that you can bring to the table, am I correct?
Oh yes, yeah, I analyze data on a daily basis at my job, so this will just be analyzing more data and making sure that it's financially sound.
Okay, and so when are you doing this? We went through the who and the what and the why. When are you doing this? When are you running? What's going on?
Well, I'm running right now, and when I will be doing this is, I believe, certification date when I will take the oath is April 22nd. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but I have to win, and the only way to win is if you vote for me. And then, so when I'll be doing this, it will be hopefully after April 22nd.
And as you stated, this is your first time.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that experience and what it means to you.
Being a first timer, I feel like I don't have a lot of political connections yet.
Yeah.
Boots on the ground were very minimal. I'm so grateful to the people that I did have and that continue to show up. They're amazing. I've met some great people on this journey. Canvassing has been great. I've met a lot of amazing people. I've seen some neighborhoods neighborhoods I didn't even know existed in Joliet Township. Some very beautiful homes out there, and some amazing people. Our neighbors are amazing people. A lot of them seem to be on path with voting for me. I've ran into a couple that have some concerns, you know, and we've discussed them. And I mean, it seems like, I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but I feel good. I feel like I'm getting good traction. I feel like I'm meeting a lot of good people, and I feel like a lot of people are on the same side of me when it comes to being responsible with the money.
Okay, in Joliet Township, let's talk a little bit about, you have a map here. First of all, let's hold this up, and this is Daryl
Boisdorf.
Boisdorf. And when you see this sign, I think Daryl wants you to vote for him. Am I not correct?
You are very
okay,
correct.
And what number are you on the ballot?
So I'm on the bottom of so when you look at the ballot, on the left-hand side, the bottom of that column will be where you vote for the township supervisor. I am the second on the list below my opponent.
Okay, so Daryl, we have this map here, and this is all of the area that you will be covering as an executive in the township,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
So let's talk, this is pretty large.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is pretty
it's about
large.
6 by 6
Okay.
miles.
6 by 6 miles. So let's talk a little bit about the map and the areas that you will be covering. That's a lot of work. So that
Yeah.
means you're going to have to be doing a lot of footwork going to these different areas, right?
Yes, yes.
Do you plan on, well, number one, do you plan on approaching each one of these areas?
Oh, of course.
If you were to get in office?
Yes, and I already have been approaching as many of them as I can.
Okay.
Yes, I'm getting informed on where the community meetings are.
Mhm.
I'm attending them. I'm getting
Okay.
to know the people that live there, their concerns.
Okay.
There are 37 precincts in Joliet Township.
Mhm.
I live right here, right on number 19.
Okay, 19.
Yep,
Okay.
and one of the things that I was actually looking into is down here on Briggs Street,
Mhm.
right here is the old YMCA.
Yes.
It's a perfect community resource center that is for sale, and I think it may in the future, depending on pricing, depending on the budget,
Mhm.
be a good idea to obtain that, because we can not only have that community resource center and we can turn that into a community center for people on the east side of Joliet,
Absolutely.
but it also gives us some land there to do some development in the township, maybe a grocery store, maybe something that the people have needed for a long time that hasn't been over there for them.
Absolutely, and,
Yep.
and that is my area, and I think we need that. I was really saddened when that YMCA closed down. That was the only swimming pool
Yeah,
that we had on that east side of
and
town.
it's still there, so let's see if we can work some magic.
Redevelop it.
Yeah, maybe,
Okay,
maybe.
so that's good. So you have, and altogether you say there's 37
Precincts.
37 precincts in
Yep.
your district. So you have a large area to cover. So tell me some of the other things that you would like to bring to the township. Now, you talked about the YMCA and how you can develop that. So what are some of the other things that you plan, that you would like to develop in the township?
Well, I know that the Senior Services Center is leaving and headed to Romeoville. I would like to try to find a way to get a new center opened up here for seniors. That's so important. Our seniors are some of our most vulnerable people in the community, and they need help. They need our help. They once helped us very much, and we need to make sure that we're helping them. So if we can either find a way to have another branch come back to Joliet from that center, or if we can open up our own, I think that that would be amazing. Our mental health clinic only sees people ages 6 to 24. I think that we need to branch out on that. We need to see everybody. Once again, our seniors, very vulnerable people. They sometimes need to speak to somebody. Sometimes they're alone at home all the time, and they need to talk to somebody. So we need to extend that. I know our transportation services, we have, I believe, 7 vans. From what I was told by the director of HR is that we only have 1 full-time driver. I would like to extend that, especially if we have these vans. We need to be able to use them, or we shouldn't be paying for
And
them.
these vans, are they to transport seniors, and is it just seniors, or?
It's not just seniors, so that's something that I saw in the January minutes as well. I saw that we had over 760 rides, and only a little bit over 140 of them were for senior citizens.
Okay.
So I'd like to know what those other rides are for. I'm not saying that they're not valid rides,
Right.
but we should have a fair and accurate accounting of what these rides are being used for, without disclosing, private information of our citizens. But yeah, I would love to expand upon that, get some more drivers, make sure that we're fully staffed there. The Peggy and Ozzie Mitchell building closed because of a lack of grant funding. The township failed to apply for grants last year. I have somebody in mind for a grant writer. She's amazing. She analyzes and does a very good job with everything that she does. So I have somebody in mind for a very good grant writer to make sure we're maximizing our grants. I'd like to get that Peggy and Ozzie Mitchell building back opened up because that's for domestic violence survivors and that's important. We need to have that there. The Recovery Community Center of Joliet is next door. They are currently working with the township. That's a building that's owned by the township that they're in. I would like to expand that as well. If you haven't heard of the Recovery Community Center, it is an asset to our community. They give the community showers on Wednesdays. They have a professional closet for people to get suits for interviews. They have computers for people.
So, Daryl, I know I have a great niece. She doesn't live in the city of Joliet, but she does live in the city of Joliet, but in the township or the unincorporated area, and she has to go to the library. She loves the library. However, the library card, she can't get one unless she pays for it. So give me your take on that.
Well, so sometimes you're on the outskirts of the township. The township's funny, it runs into some incorporated areas of the city, and then some areas are not part of the city, they're unincorporated. Those unincorporated areas, I believe from what I'm being told, is you have to pay $125 to get a membership at the Joliet Library, even though you're in the Joliet Township. And although we may not pay library taxes on our property taxes, the township did donate $5,000 to the library last year for Star Wars Days. So I think that it's important that if we're giving some of our money as a township to the library and donating money in that amount, $5,000 and more over the year to the library, we need to make sure that our township residents are taken care of, and they should be given entry just like the citizens of the city into the library. So what I'd like to do is find a way to work with the board members at the library and allow the township, the residents of the township, to go to the library for free as well. I know that I had mentioned earlier in the interview possibly obtaining the YMCA, which is not in the city, but it is in the township. If we have a community center like that, we can then negotiate and use leverage possibly to say, hey, you city people in the city that are not, because the city goes through Joliet, Troy, Plainfield, New Lenox, and Lockport Township. So if we have that leverage and we say, hey, you members of the city can use our township service, but we need to be able to use your city service of the library, we may be able to find, or even just donations, we can possibly find some way to come to terms and get an agreement in place that township residents can also use the library without that hefty $125
I guess
fee.
because what I'm seeing is that if you were to get that OYMCA, then there's going to be a lot of programs there for children that consist of reading and needing to. Am I not correct about that?
Yes,
Are you
of
looking
course.
for that?
And especially in the summertime when they're out of school, we're going to need to ramp up those resources there, day camps, stuff like that, and I think that that's going to be important that they can also go and pick up another book at the library. And some of these families, they're low-income people. They work hard for their money and what they have to pay bills with. An extra bill for a resource such as the library, we need to find a way to get around that.
And I think it's awesome because the library have a lot of things going on down there. I just love the new science area that they have for the young children, and they need to have access to that. The township as well as Will County, without having to pay a large fee, because a lot of people can't afford that fee, even if it is an annual fee.
Another bill.
Another bill.
And I mean the annual ones seem to be bigger sometimes. Some people they pay their property insurance.
So I hope you guys can kind of collaborate on that and work that out so that everyone can have access to our public libraries, and we have two phenomenal libraries here in the city of Joliet.
I agree.
Okay, so once again, thank you so much. If you haven't heard of Daryl, you have heard of him on Be Informed with Julia Alexander. He's running for the executive position of Joliet Township. So Daryl, once again, thank you. And my listening audience, thank you.
Vote for Daryl Boisdorf for Township Supervisor. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, once again, I'm Julia Alexander. This is Be Informed. We have a series of new candidates coming out of the gate. Man, is it a race. And I happen to be interviewing several of the new candidates, and I happen to be here today with Mr. Larry Crawford. Larry Crawford is running for City Council at large. He is a write-in, so don't forget, a write-in, and we will give you the correct spelling of the names, although you may see the sign behind me, but make sure that when you write them in, that you spell that name correct. So for now, let's talk with Larry. Hi, Larry. How are you?
Hello, Miss Julia. How are you?
I am great. Thank you so much, sir.
Oh,
Let's
my
get the
goodness.
handshake for doing
All right.
this interview with us.
That's the way boxers do too. You
Yeah,
know?
I know, right?
Yeah,
So
but
that
thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Yes.
So we can let the public know, introduce you to the public, let them know your interests and your concerns and what you would like to do,
Yeah.
or not actually what you would like to do, but where you would like to collaborate with others to move our city
You are
to
saying
its
that,
next
yeah.
level. Okay, did
Yeah,
I have that
yeah.
right? So go ahead, look in the camera, tell
Yeah.
them who you are.
Again, my name is Larry Crawford. I've been in Joliet for about 20 plus years, closer to 25 years. I came to Joliet on a ministry assignment.
Okay.
And I still do ministry, but I have a vocation. I'm an educator, and for the last 20 years, I was the truancy specialist for Joliet Public Schools District 86. And I recently retired, coming up on a year in retirement.
Okay, let me stop you right there. For those young people that don't know what truancy is or what it means,
Okay, yeah.
just do a little bit of explaining. I know we're kind of getting off track here, but
Yeah.
I think that's
That's a
knowledge
good.
that-
Thank you for
yeah.
asking that. Truancy relates to attendance.
Okay.
When you start talking about the a factor that's important for achievement in school, then showing up every day and on time, and it's also an amazing discipline, so that when you are out of school, graduate from school, you have the discipline in a vocation that you might choose where punctuality and regular attendance is important.
Absolutely.
And it'll keep you, in a nutshell, that's what the bottom line is, in
Absolutely.
addition to the educational
Yeah.
component
Yeah.
that you're gained
Yeah.
from a school.
Okay, so truancy is the amount of time that you attend
Right.
school, right?
Every day and on time.
Yeah, okay,
yes.
every day and
And as a specialist, it's different from a truant officer.
Okay.
Because when people think of a truant officer, they think of law enforcement.
Yeah.
And as much as that is a component of what I would do, the ultimate thing was to find a way to cause regular attendance without the court system being involved.
Okay. Oh,
So
that's
I was
awesome.
more, the school allowed me to develop a community engagement specialist
Okay.
approach,
Okay.
which was building families as well as
Okay.
causing students to attend.
Speaking of community engagement, that's what you're doing, engaging
That
with
is-
community by
yes.
running for this, okay?
Yes.
And why are you running for this?
Oh my goodness! I've been in the years that I've been in. I came from Oklahoma
Okay.
as a community activist.
Okay.
And so when I got here, I was looking for a way to be involved in community because it's in my DNA. That's what my mama did. As a little kid, I was going to council meetings with
Yeah.
my mom and watching her just be an advocate for the common man.
Absolutely.
And so that's kind of what I've continued to do because I can't help it. I got a case of I can't help it because I want to be the voice for the people.
Yeah.
And I'm running simply because there have been a number of occasions, too often, where it seems like the voice of the people have been excluded.
Okay.
And so I want to make sure that, from my position as not being on the council, I've been down to address the city council with issues that were important to the community. And I haven't seen a whole lot of change in terms of how the council has responded to that. And so I'm hoping to have a seat at the table on the council, and that allows me to have what I would call maybe a weighted vote.
Yeah.
And at least I would be in the room because
Yeah.
maybe the reason why they haven't done things makes perfect sense from a more informed perspective.
Right.
But on the other hand, it seems like the weight of some of those decisions tend to land in the lap of the taxpayers when some of those issues seem to be solved in a better way. And I'm
Absolutely.
hoping that I can bring that to the council.
Absolutely, absolutely. Other than bringing your educational background, your community service background, to the council. What else do you bring to the council? What you bring to the council?
Well, I bring organization and planning experience.
Okay.
you know.
Okay. Okay.
In addition to, I had experience as a community services manager in Oklahoma for a community action program, something similar to Will County Community Concerns. It's a CAP agency,
Okay.
which provides emergency assistance and all those kinds of things. So in terms of providing services that are practical as it might be, I have experience in that. I've had leadership organization. I've served as the president or the lead person in several organizations here since I've been in Joliet. I'm a member of organizations in very number of organizations. So I bring that kind of practical experience.
Absolutely. Along with the experience of African heritage, I know you do a Black History program every year at the Bicentennial Park.
Yes.
It's awesome. I had the opportunity to
You
be a
did?
part of one of
Oh,
them.
my
I think it was
goodness,
last
yes.
year.
Yeah.
And I know that that's awesome. And what do you gain out of that? I mean, what is it that you're looking for through that program?
There are a number of things.
Okay.
Enrichment and education,
Okay.
primarily. The program has an overriding thing called stamped
Yes.
into history.
Yes.
And I use that stamped because primarily we recognize and depict African Americans who've been honored on United States postage stamps.
Okay.
And it gives us an opportunity. When I say us, I mean the community.
Right. Absolutely.
It gives us the opportunity to be exposed to some of those historical components that have become very practical in our day-to-day lives and stuff. So that's the idea of that, is to educate.
And I think it's awesome. I think it does educate.
Yes.
Well, I learned a lot about Harriet Tubman when I played her right now. I learned a lot about that. But I'm going to ask you this question, Larry. You're running for City Council at large, the city of Joliet, right? City Council at large, that means that you are responsible, you cover the entire city of Joliet. Now, I have a district council person. I'm in District 5. I have a district council person.
Yes.
Actually, I have 5 council people.
Uh-oh.
Because I have the 3 at large, right? Because you cover the entire city, right?
Absolutely.
I have my 1 council person that's appointed to my district, right?
Yes.
And I have the vote of the mayor. So we
Absolutely.
actually have 5
Wow.
council people.
Yes. And I think that's an excellent structure, and
Yeah.
I'm glad that
Yes.
you describe it in the way that I describe
Absolutely.
it. And ultimately, you have 9.
Okay.
Okay, because all
Enlighten
of those,
me.
all of
Yeah.
the seats belong to the people.
Yeah.
And I certainly, it's important to respect the fact that we have 5 districts, and each one of those 5 council persons have a priority that focuses on
their district.
the voters who selected them as their voice.
Absolutely.
But in all instances, I think that all of the council people have a common interest in the welfare of the whole city.
Yes.
And so when you start talking about the resource that the council person from District 5 lends to my council person in District 4, you know, then that's valuable. That if it's working over there, if it flies there, maybe
Yes.
it can
Maybe
fly here.
yeah,
Maybe
absolutely.
the services and the resources could be more effective and efficiently provided by the insight that each of those council persons that bring.
Absolutely.
And most of the time, those ideas come from the citizens.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
They should come from
they-
they should come from the citizens. And with that being said, speaking of the 9 council people that we have, for sure we have 1, definitely we have 5.
Yes, absolutely.
How are you with working across the aisle?
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sorry.
Although we don't know if they're Republicans or Democrats, and I don't think that really matters.
Right.
What matters is seeing the best solution
Wow.
at that time
There you go.
for that particular area that in which you're dealing with. So, but you still have to work across the aisle.
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
That usually has connotation or interpretation that means it's something very partisan. You know, as you were saying, Democrat. Now I have a weird expression that says, it doesn't matter whether you're an independent party, Democratic Party, Republican Party, or Tupperware Party.
Right.
I don't care. And I say that respectfully, but I say I don't care. It matters very little in the scheme of, whatever has happened needs to be in the best interest of every citizen.
Of every citizen.
Of every
That's
citizen.
Right. That's right.
And as an at-large candidate, as an at-large council person, I am not any more concerned about my own district than I am about your district. Because all the funds come out of the same pot.
Actually, yeah.
In terms of how do we balance that in such a way that it is inclusive. But I think another part of your question is that there has to be some collaboration in terms of because the needs of the districts are different, and even the priorities are different. But when there are some basic things like infrastructure and all those kinds of things that we have in common. Everybody wants to have good streets. Everybody wants to make sure that their snow is removed. Everybody wants to have the possibility of some good sidewalks and stuff. And certainly when you start talking about water and police and fire protection, that is not something that needs to be perceived as better on the north side than it is on the south side. And or however that goes, so that everybody has the benefit of all the resources in the best way.
Necessary resources too, is what I'm hearing you name.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, Larry, at this point, is there anything that you would like to tell the listening audience other than to vote for you?
Exactly.
Look into that camera and tell them.
The thing that makes my candidacy somehow unique is that I am a write-in candidate, which means that when you get your ballot, my name is not on there. But it doesn't mean that I'm not running for that seat. So when you get your ballot, you're going to notice that for the municipal election, because there are 5 persons whose names are on there, 5 candidates whose names are on the ballot, but then there are an additional 3 boxes below that where the line beside them are blank. And I'm saying, when you look at the ballot, I hope that you'll go to the poll, or even if you're having a mail-in ballot, however you have the privilege of voting, that you'll have Larry Crawford in mind when you have your ballot in your hand.
Yeah, so when they see that blank, it's not blank, just look at it and you'll see Larry Crawford's name appear, right? No.
I wish that were so.
No.
But ultimately, don't be dismayed or saying, I didn't see your name. Well, it's not on there. And write in is the operative term. That means you have to write it in. And you spell it right. In addition to writing the name in.
Can you spell that name for them?
It's LARRYCRAWFORD. And you let me say that better. Print it in so that it's legible and readable, because when I sign my name, it don't look like Larry Crawford. And we don't want it to be in a situation where somebody has to make a judgment call about what your voter intention was. And so you print that name in there. And not only do you print the name in that on that blank line, but you also have to color in or shade that box. Because simply printing my name in there without shading the box doesn't count.
I'm glad you told me that, because that would have been a mistake I would have made.
It's easy to think that you just write the name in there, but the vote is actually tallied by shading in that box. And at that point, that you have made a choice. And so I just want to be mindful of that, because there's another candidate in another race, if I may. One of the challenges that a county board person, my dear friend Herb Brooks, was a write-in candidate. And because of the way that some of the names were entered on the ballot, they were not counted.
Okay.
And so it cost him a seat that he had held down for a number of years. It cost him seniority in terms of that, simply because the voter didn't understand how to write in. But that's the responsibility that I asked you, the voters, to understand, is that you print in Larry Crawford.
Absolutely.
That would be, I don't know if I can be over
No,
the top with that.
No, I think that is clear, it's direct, and it's precise. And just remember, once you write, print the name in,
Yes.
fill in the box, because the box is what the machine tallies.
Exactly.
The name tells you who the machine is tallying, who the box is tallying. So once again, Larry Crawford, tell them to vote for you, win his election, and has
my
early
goodness.
election started? Tell them.
Early election has started since the 17th of this month, the month of March, and you have the privilege of participating in this process all the way up until April the 1st on election day. And it's important to participate. It's important to note that you have a voice that has been coming down
Yes, yes.
to the city council,
Yes.
not just during election season.
Okay.
I've been coming down to the city council and raising questions and asking for support and offering input on any number of issues that taxpayers were concerned about, whether it was housing, warehouse, those other things that we mentioned, police protection, propriety. You know, we're in a season where they're talking about our police force in quite a negative way. It gives us a perception of recklessness, and we need to fix that. And there are committees on the council that address that, and it seems like some of the things that we take for granted are not being not being done.
Yeah.
And as a council person, if I happen to be on the committee that deals with some of those issues, I will make sure that I'm addressing it in a way that it serves us, the citizens of Joliet, best. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's pretty much where I am.
Okay, you've heard it from him, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Larry Crawford, running for City Council at large, right here in the city of Joliet. Early voting has started already.
Yes.
Election is April 1st.
April 1st.
Write-in. He is a write-in candidate.
And it's very interesting, you know. April 1st has its own identity historically.
April Fool. Okay, so maybe you'll be fooled and 1 million people will write your name in there. So that would be the pleasant.
That would be the pleasant surprise.
It could be a good or a bad thing.
Yeah,
but,
well, you know, and historically, I've had those kinds of perceptions or perspectives where it says, Larry, you can't win as a write-in.
yeah.
And I'm not really running to disprove that.
Yeah.
But I am running for that seat.
Yeah.
I'm not running to make history.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
running to make change.
Well, I don't think you win on a name. You win on an action.
You win on the action.
So
And yet, look at the history. Review the history of Joliet City Council,
Yes,
and
yes.
you'll discover that Larry Crawford has been down there,
Yeah.
being the voice of the people for years.
They can go on the city website
They can
and
go
pull
look-
up
pull
any
up-
of
pull-
those
pull up the- yeah.
council meetings.
And you'll discover
mhm,
that Larry was advocating for you, not just for me, but for us.
Yeah, and
You're
if
welcome.
and when Larry gets on there, you are free. It is your right to go back and look at his voting record.
Look at
and
it
I think
every
we
time.
should do that.
You should,
know,
you
I
know.
think we should do that so that we can make some real informed judgments
Absolutely.
as to who we're voting for.
Who you're voting
Yeah,
for.
absolutely.
And I think every candidate says, I will be available. You'll have my phone number. And I will return your call if I don't answer it immediately. You know, but so that's
Okay.
that should be a given rather than a platform
Absolutely.
statement.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
and you're absolutely right. Don't turn that phone off April 1st. No, I'm
Yeah.
just joking. No, I'm just joking. That's
No.
just a joke, you guys. And
Yeah.
I believe in
Absolutely.
having fun.
Yeah,
when
you know,
do
and
anything.
I think we have a common experience in that we have, there was somebody who spoke into our lives that says, if you don't laugh a little bit, you're going to do a lot of crying.
That's right, absolutely. You're
Yes.
absolutely right. So once again, Larry, thank you so much
thank
for
you.
letting my listening audience know
Yeah.
who, what, when, where, and why.
Mhm.
Are you doing? Are you coming forth to serve the citizens on the
Absolutely.
county, on the city
On
council?
the city
board?
council.
Yeah.
That is my desire.
And so, once again, you all, this is Be Informed, and this is what's happening. We've been informed about truancy. I thank you
Yeah.
for that
Mhm.
information. A little history, and we're being informed about this candidate, where he came from, what he's done while he was there. Also, you are an assistant pastor, minister at
Yes, at St. Paul Missionary Baptist Church,
okay,
1404 South Briggs Street.
and so he's been
Yes.
around in the community, actually for a while. You know, he's
Yes.
been around
Mhm.
here doing works for a while. And so when you look at him on that ballot, see him on that ballot, write him in on that ballot, color that block in on that ballot, and then walk home and have yourself a nice cold glass of iced tea.
I'm telling you. LARRYCRAWFORD. Your voice and your choice.
Amen. Bye-bye. Okay.